to Jewish Women Talk About Midlife. Hi, I'm Devora Krasnianski, and I've been coaching women for a long time in all areas of life, including women in midlife. Midlife is an exciting time, but it's also confusing, and so I invite experts to join me here as we unpack this crazy and interesting time of our lives. You can join our conversations on our Facebook group, Jewish Women Talk About Midlife, and on our website, Jewish Midlife. In this episode, I had the pleasure of speaking with Chanie Schreibhand, the founder of Uplift Magazine. This magazine was created to provide quality, relevant content to Jewish women with a particular focus on those of us in midlife. Chanie's mission is clear: to empower and inspire women in this unique stage of life. And our conversation centered around the topic of loneliness in midlife. We delve into the changing nature of our lives and how it impacts our social circles. Many of us in midlife find ourselves grappling with a sense of loneliness without someone we feel comfortable to confide in. Loneliness is so real for so many people. During our discussion, we explored some practical strategies to combat loneliness, both for ourselves and to help our friends and community members. Chani also shared about a project from Uplift Magazine that aims to address the issue of loneliness among women. So whether you're seeking to strengthen your existing relationships or looking to make new connections, this episode is brimming with valuable insights about the profound impact of human connection. Enjoy. So, Chani, I'm so excited to be talking to you about what you're up to, the magazine, your new project. So let's just jump right into it.
That's great. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much, Devora, for having me here. And it's really great to speak to you again. I love it.
All right.
Let's go.
So let's talk about the magazine and how you got into that, and then into your new projects.
Okay, so my magazine started when I think 3 years ago, a little bit over 3 years ago. My mother was nifta. She was 71, and she just died very suddenly. And there was a big void in the community because my mother was like a rebbitzin. She was a teacher. She was a mentor. She was an exercise teacher. She taught about collars. She did a lot of different stuff in the community. And not only that, people would come to her with their problems. And she just knew how to approach everyone. She was just really a dynamic person. And when she died, people were really like stuck. What am I going to do? Who am I going to speak to? And I decided, you know what, we'll start like this little community. They'll come together in my house a bit. And then unfortunately, COVID started. So the house we forgot about the house because nobody would come because we were all scared of COVID. So we decided we'll start a WhatsApp group. And the WhatsApp group was just very, any question a person had, they would write it into the WhatsApp group, people would answer. And it was just like a really friendly place to be. They also shared recipes. It was all about that. And then as time went by, I saw that actually the people who I was really interested in getting to open up and to be part of this community were the people who didn't have computers and weren't, they wouldn't be on WhatsApp. They didn't have social media at all. And that was really my mother's client base in the beginning. So I thought, you know what, let's make a pamphlet, a little magazine, just a few pages, a few artistic things. And okay, I worked on Canva. I don't know if you know what Canva is.
Yeah.
And I made these little magazine. I thought, all right, this is good. I sent it to my children, and my children said, you're not sending that out to anyone. And we made it into this bigger project. And it's really like snowballed since then. It's 150 pages this time. And it's beautiful quality, and we get so much response from it. So we talk about so many different things in it.
Let's talk about it. The magazine is called
The Uplift Magazine. I'll show you how it looks.
And the target audience
is it's the same target audience as you, isn't it? It's like, I really say from 35 and above, but I would say middle, sandwich generation. That is who I really aim it to. I mean, this is the cover of it. This is how it looks. This is our newest issue, and this is the back of it. So it's always a really beautiful piece.
So our topics are all related to life in midlife, 35 and above. It's less about raising your first kids and things like that. It's like really targeted, and that's what I really liked about it. There aren't articles that are for a different stage of my life. which is wonderful. I'm sure there's other magazines cover a full range, and it works for them and it works for their audience, perhaps. But I like that this is really tactless, straight to the
Yeah,
point of
I
where
think that's
are you
really
now.
important because we're a really missing voice. We really are. I mean, it's we don't do this intentionally, but unfortunately, that's how it becomes. We marry off our children, or we have older teenagers. We're starting to look after our parents a bit, and all of a sudden, like our voices are not really heard in the community. And it's not it. You know, as I said, it's not intentional, but it happens. And we do need to speak about different things that are, nogea to us. So we have things like the menopause. We have there's just so much in our lives that we need to be open about it. We need to really discuss it openly. And I find in my magazine, because it's a woman to woman, it's all the women are writers, all the writers are women. I'm sorry about that. And they talk to their friend. They're having a conversation with their friend and they write it down on paper. That's how I like to quote, to say about what to say about the magazine, because it's all about stuff that we really want to know about.
And I found it easy to read. Like it was like talking, like hearing from a friend. It wasn't talking back to a friend, but it was hearing from a friend. And I think that the importance of really feeling that our voices, our situations are really being expressed. First of all, it's validating our situations and our experiences, which many of the other magazines validate lots of different people's experiences. I think that narrowing it down can be helpful to a lot of people. So
I hope
kudos to
so.
you.
I mean, that's what I'm trying to really do, is really narrowing it. And I'm happy to see in all our, numbers and all our, when you go through all your numbers at the end of the month and you see who's really reading it, it's really funny to see that the age group is from 40 to 65 is like really being met. So that makes me happy. It shows me it's going to the right person.
Okay. So what other projects are you working on?
Okay, so one of the main projects that I always work on within the Uplift magazine is, first of all, it's about uplifting. And I find that I find women are very, very lonely at this part of our age. I don't know if it's because of the different changes that we're going through. It's because maybe we don't discuss it always, but we become very isolated in what we feel at this time of our lives. And I think that the loneliness could lead from that into depression, which is another part, which is really very, very hard. And once it gets into depression, you're going into medicines, it just goes on and on and on. So I find that if we catch it when the person is just feeling lonely, and we start reaching out to them and we start having conversations and we talk between ourselves, like, I felt lonely. This is how I felt. This is what I would have liked somebody to do for me. So that's why we started a really nice project. And I do it a few times a year, but just at this point, it's going on now. So we have 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And I say, we always asking for tshuva, but, sometimes tshuva comes from being nice to somebody else also. So I started a campaign. It's called Stop Loneliness. And it's the Uplift Stop Loneliness. And what we do is we give out, first of all, we have conversations in the group, and that's usually on WhatsApp. And plus that, I send every day a little reminder of what you could do to help somebody. So let's say today it was, today was, what conversation would you have? What did you feel when you were lonely? What would you have liked somebody to do for you? Or yet the other day we had, loneliness is not about being alone in a room. It's about feeling alone in a room. And feeling alone is sometimes worse than being alone. Because when you choose to be alone in a room, it's quiet, you want that.
That's solitude. That's not loneliness.
Yeah, that's alone. That's different. But when you feel that I'm alone in this really crowded room, you could sometimes really feel depressed and very upset about it and very sad. So that's the type of stuff that we do. So when we give out, I'll show you what we do. Like for Yontif, we'll give out a little package and we'll put in perfumes, and we call it the Uplift the Uplift bag, and it's a
Oh,
little
wow.
bag. Yeah, and like this time we had people who donated stuff. So we had different things for your sukkah. So this was really nice. Somebody
That's so
donated.
pretty.
Isn't that gorgeous? Gita Stern, she's a fabulous artist. And we had what's her name? Rebecca Zaltzman. She helped us with it. So this is just little things that we do just to make somebody know that we are there and we are aware that they are there too. And how do we find these people? That's the tricky thing, is how do you know who's lonely? You know, how do you quantify somebody as being lonely? You can't say to you, are you lonely? You know, that's not the way it works. So what I do is try to, in the group, try to get people to give me names of somebody that they feel would really benefit from something like this. So that's how we do it.
So where are you based? Or you have that?
We're in Manchester, but which is in England. If
Right.
you know, there's one in America too, but we're in England. But what we are trying to do is make this more of a world. Wherever the magazine is available, we're trying to work on groups in those places. So that's my aim with the magazine. So I'm trying to do it. Let's say we have in Miami a few available. So I'm trying to find a community there that will do it. I'm trying to find a community in Los Angeles, in, you know, all the different places that we are. That's my aim, my goal.
So loneliness is really a big thing. I find that with the women that I talk to, that the whole change of their life and all the friends that they may have had or acquaintances that they have because of their kids and carpool, all of those people were part of their life, but not necessarily deep friends. And now they don't have that reason. They're not going to soccer practice anymore or wherever they're not going to. So those people are not part of their life. And then their own adult kids become adults, and those kids are not as busy and as often in their life. And so there's just less of what they're familiar with, less of the people they're familiar with. So there's that loneliness that just comes from life. And then there's also that loneliness, I think, that comes from introspection and like, what do I want with my life? And is it going the way I want? And can anyone even understand what's going on for me or with me? And so loneliness comes from all different angles. And I think that it's a really important topic to talk about. I know that years ago, the Surgeon General in America claimed that loneliness is the next epidemic. That was before COVID came about. But really, it's a real big problem. And they're seeing that the death rates are going up. Part of it is because of loneliness.
A lot of suicide happens because of this, because you become very suicidal when you feel this deep loneliness. I think it's really important to understand that it's not just a loneliness of, you know, oh, I'm so lonely, I can't, you know, it's really a deep, deep loneliness. You wake up in the morning and you are totally alone in your thoughts. It's really a very, you know, deep feeling. And I think that's what we have to, you know, address. And I think you're right. When it comes to our age group, there is so much going on in our lives. There's so much change and so much, you know, I can't explain. You wake up, I mean, you have your kids, you have your thing, and then you have all these hormonal changes going on. And you can't always call up a friend and say, oh, you know, I'm feeling really down today, because she's going through more or less the same thing. And not everybody wants to talk about this stuff.
To combat loneliness is actually to make connections. It's not just to have people in your life. It's not just to be busy. Like you could find a share every night, but it's not about keeping yourself busy as a distraction from what's not happening in your life or for what is happening in your life. It's really making some kind of connection. And I think that finding where those connections are, before we had similarities perhaps with other soccer moms or whatever else we were doing, but now find something else that we can connect to other people. I think that's really important. A piece of what I'm trying to do, create the community of finding people that connect around something that is interesting to both of you or to many of us.
I think you're right. And I'll tell you what, I think because we go through so much pivoting in this stage of life, I don't know about, I mean, Devora, I don't know about you, but I definitely pivoted very far from what I was beforehand. I think that pivoting stage is also a time that if you don't really pivot with a thought of what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And I want to create friendships. I want to make sure that I have, people who I could discuss things. It doesn't have to even be deep friendships. It could be just discussions. I mean, me and you, Devora, we're sitting in here and discussing something. That is for us a way of connecting, of bringing about a conversation. And that's what it's about. And it's not, like you said, it's not about being busy all day and running to shiurim and, doing. Actually, I don't think that that's always healthy, because that sometimes causes you even more loneliness, because you're not even giving yourself a chance to live with what you're feeling. You're just constantly hiding it and putting a bandage on it. So sometimes you need to rip the bandage off, feel what you're feeling, and find a place that you could find yourself and talk to people about it.
I'm not to say not to go to a share or not to go to a class.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just that, but understand why you're going. So if you're going to learn, that's wonderful. If you're going to meet other people, then figure out if it's the right share. If it's the kind of place that you come in and you sit down and you listen and then you leave, then that might not be doing it for you. But if you're coming to meet people that maybe come before, volunteer to set up, or volunteer to or just plan that you're going to hang around later. And if it's not the right group, that people don't hang around, then maybe find a different
that's
share.
really not only that, Devora, sometimes you go to shiurim and you sit there and you start feeling so bad about yourself. If it's a positive share and it's going to give you something to feel good about yourself, that's great. But not to sit there and to feel bad. Oh, I've done this wrong. I've done that wrong. I don't do this.
Yeah, talk about the topic on the presenter.
Yeah, you have
there
to
is
really.
that. There's definitely that. And especially if you don't connect, and you just feel like, I came here to do something, and then I just wasted an hour and a half because I didn't connect on the topic,
and
or I
it
didn't.
feel worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to be really, you do. You have to really think where you're going and make sure, really make efforts to find people that you could communicate with, you could talk to, because there are people. It's just, I don't know about you, but I know during my menopause, I mean, I'm almost over it, but during my menopause in the early years, I did go through this. I felt very, very, very alone. And then my mother was still alive and we would talk about it. But in my friendships, I did feel alone. I couldn't really talk about everything. And then I realized that I have to make that effort to push myself out of it. And the way I did that was, like you said, I started finding new things to, put my head into, or I found new friendships. I found new places to inspire my mind, to make me feel better about that feeling. And eventually, I'm not saying I never feel lonely, but I don't have that deep, deep loneliness that I had then.
I also think it's like me having a conversation, and it may not turn into a friendship. It's okay. Like not everything will turn into the best conversation or into a new friendship or into a new connection even. It's a little bit like shidduch dating, or a lot like shidduch dating. You put the effort into it, and then it doesn't turn into anything. But I think that's with everything in life. And I think that we've seen that in life. Like we've tried different projects to be involved with or whatever it is, and it didn't work. So yes, it's frustrating, but that's part of figuring out yourself and finding your new circle, and even your new topics. I think one of the advice is to go to classes of things that are interesting to you. But if you don't know what's interesting to you, then try something. You might meet up someone there who's also just interesting for that, or you might actually enjoy the painting, or you may find that, okay, I can take painting off my list. I thought I might like watercolor, but I don't. And that,
you're right. And this is what it's all about. It's about finding yourself. It's the whole idea of this, the big change, as they say, quote unquote, you're going through the change.
Right.
The whole idea of it is not only the physical change, but we also change mentally. We do. I mean, somebody asked me recently, she goes, oh, I have so many friends that I've lost touch with. I feel so bad about myself. I don't know why I'm losing touch. Why is everybody I said, actually, you're growing. All it is you're growing into who you are. And when you had the kids, like you said, when you had the carpool, you had different conversations going on, so you needed each other. You needed somebody to help you pick up the kids one day, or that was the friendship. Your children needed to play with them, so you had a commonality. But as you're growing older, you start finding who you are, and you're not always what your kids needed. You are also a person on your own, and I think it's really important to know that.
I also think that, which is something that you said before, it triggered, is like if her friends aren't talking to her as much, and I'm just wondering, is it possible that she's fetching too much, or she's dumping her load too much? I'm not saying with a particular person, but that's
Yeah, but
something
you know what?
to think about.
It's 100% true. You could be right that somebody dumps, but I think that works both ways. Everyone's dumping their load on somebody else. That's friendship is about dumping, but because that's where you feel the most connected. You
Right.
feel if you have a really good friend. I mean, I have a friend she's been my friend for oh gosh, married 40 years. She's been my friend for 42 years.
Wow.
And yeah, we dump on each other. Sometimes we dump a little more, and sometimes we dump a little less, but we stuck together. But the truth,
Definitely good friends you can dump, but there's only and there's only certain things that you can dump on certain people. And some, in other
and
words,
those people,
if there's a lot of negativity, just introspect. If you're dumping a lot of negativity
yeah,
on people, then they may not be able to handle it at that point for themselves or from you. So like it's just something to say that it's not always the other people are just not giving you the time. It may be something, the energy that we are emanating out, and that, so that's
but
just
if
something
we
to consider.
emanate that, then I said something to her. I said, listen, just because she's not here for you today doesn't mean in a few years when she gets over her rubbish and you get over your rubbish, I mean garbage, that's what you right? If we you might change and you might come back together. We all go through different life experiences, and sometimes we need a good friend. You could hang up the phone, and 5 years later, pick it up, and you're still having the same conversation. That's a good friend. And if you don't put too much emphasis, as oh, she didn't listen to me today, or she doesn't like me, that that's when it becomes negative.
Right. Definitely. And I think that the idea of picking up a phone call to somebody that you haven't spoken to in a while, one of you are going to have to connect. So may as well be you, and see, maybe the friendship is really over. I mean, it's possible,
Yeah.
but if you want, you can start with a text. If you really don't want to pick up the phone, I mean, there's ways to do that. But really, if you're the one who wants to have more friends or more people in your life, then you're going to be the one who has to be more proactive. So you can start with the circle of people that you have already that maybe you just weren't giving enough effort to. And I think that friendship or even connections takes a lot of effort. I think maybe more so at our age, when you're finding new people and you think that you want to connect with that person because you had a great conversation and maybe they don't have the time, or it was just a wonderful one-off, wonderful conversation, and it's just not going to turn into something. And that's why I kind of see the comparison to shidduchim for people who
Yeah,
speak.
because you could go out with somebody 5, 6 times, have a great conversation, and then turn around and say, well, this is actually not for me. That's fine. Nobody's going to be upset with you. They'll be happy that you're not going into a marriage
Right.
that's not going to be happy, right? So it's the same thing, like you say. It is. It's a shidduch. Not every friendship becomes something that's deep. Fine, and that's okay. That's really okay. And I think understanding the concept of friendship at our age is slightly different than understanding it when we were younger. When we were younger, we would get insulted. This one's not talking. This one's not. She's not looking at me. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
especially when you went to high school and there was a G
Those are high
code,
spirit.
right? But as we get older, we change our needs change when it comes to the friendship. Our needs, it becomes different.
I
And
think
I
that
think, yeah.
I think it's friendship. It's also connection. I think that the hope that it's going to turn into a friendship is maybe, it's a second level. Like, let's just have interesting conversations that we feel like we were part of an interesting conversation. It doesn't have to turn into your next best friend.
That's it. I think that's that is a residue of our youth. Everyone had to be your best friend. And today she's not my best. How many times do you have a little kid come home? Oh, Shandy's not speaking to me today.
Right.
She's not my friend anymore. We're past that. We don't need that anymore. But it's a residue of it. And we have to grow into who we are now. And this is and what we are now is we need conversation. Yeah, sometimes you need to go out with someone. You call up. It doesn't have to be a BFF or whatever, best friend, whatever.
Yeah.
It could just be anyone. I'm going out today. Would you like to come with me? There are things to do that will get you into a world where the loneliness is not so deep.
And it doesn't have to be going out for coffee or for dinner or lunch. It could be more, it could be something else beside food.
I have somebody who actually I got to know through the magazine. And you know how you go walking in the morning? And she lives in Israel. I live in Manchester, which is quite a distance. And she'll call me up. I'm on a walk today. Do you want to go walking? And we'll walk and talk. And I'm best friends. No, I'm friendly. I'm an acquaintance. We go for a walk. We have a chat. And that's the end. And we get on with our lives. But it's just the talking to someone. It's the not that feeling of just not talking. Because some people could be in their house for weeks and weeks and weeks and not talk to anyone. And that is being alone.
Well, that's not being alone, that's being lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that part of what's so wonderful about talking to people, even if they don't become your best friend, is you just expand your horizons and get new perspectives. And I think that opens our world to, you never know what's next. And I think that that's what the wonderful part of our stage is. There's so much more to learn, and we have a little bit more time for some of us to actually explore new things that, first of all, weren't even around when we were younger.
When we were young.
And the
I mean, can you
opportunities
imagine going onto social media when you were younger? I'm like, I sometimes look at myself and think, you're putting something on Instagram. This is but this is it. We have expanded. As the world has changed so much from when we were younger that there's so much more to do. There really is.
There's conversations that we could have, but also there's hobbies and activities and travel, and things are easier. And for some of us, we have more money to spend on it, or some of us don't. But there's just so much that we could be doing.
Yeah.
So I think that we only know our world. Of course, we can find out a lot by just sitting on our phones. There's a lot we can be reading. That's true. But bouncing ideas and seeing how we might actually integrate the ideas that we've read or heard about with somebody else makes it so much more alive. And I just think it makes our life so much more exciting. So it doesn't have to be somebody that's going to be your best friend that you can even share necessarily what's going on for you, but just expand your horizon. So there's different purposes for having different people in your life, and just find them. Like you can talk about the gym if that's what you're into. You can talk about.
There's loads going on. Devora, when I started the magazine, it started in towards the end of the second, when we went into, let's say, COVID, towards the end of that year, that first wave of it. And I'll tell you what, it was the loneliest time of my life, because I had lost my mother, who I was extremely, extremely close to as a friend. My mother was 16 when she got married, and had me at 17. So our relationship was definitely not a mother and daughter relationship. It was a mother-daughter-friend relationship. And I really missed her. We used to go out every weekend, every Friday we'd go out, we'd get together. And this was something she was my friend. That was who she was. And I really missed it. And I really thought, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to? And then when I started thinking about the magazine, and I started opening myself up online, and I was speaking to people on LinkedIn, and I'm more on LinkedIn than anywhere really. And I met this whole different group of people that I would have never come across. I mean, I met Rosalie Schatzman. I met, you were later on, but I met so many people, and they all became part of this project of the magazine, and they're still writing for me. And it just made me come out of myself. So I always say there's so much you could, if you're open to change, you will accept, and you accept it, then you could change. You could really work on it.
Well, I also think that talking about change is that change happens so much stronger and better with the support of other people, whether
Definitely.
it's their perspectives or just their cheerleading, or they're even challenging your thoughts so that it actually comes into a nicer end result. I think that people just enhance our lives. And for while it may not come easy, circumstances don't have people coming into your life, may mean getting out of our comfort zone, and it may be a little bit more for introverts who don't find making friendships so easy or don't want to. But I think that having your core group of people is so important. And it's, or having people about different topics. Like you could have someone that around a project that you're working on for now, and they may never really come back into your life, but they're part of what makes this project go on.
Yeah. And when you're doing that project, you're also opening up so much conversation. And that conversation makes you dig deeper into yourself because you're so, oh, wow, that's really interesting. I never heard of that idea. I'm going to look into it. We were saying before the show, before we did this, you were saying about Sukkos, yeah? And how we're going to try to bring this out before Sukkos. And I was just thinking, what does this loneliness and Sukkos, what does it all have to do with each other? And the sukkah is all about being open in the open air. And we have, we're showing that we're coming out of our house, so we're accepting Hashem even outside in this little hut. But it's
Right.
also about, I think, accepting people with an openness. And I think it works both ways. It's not only being a guest in someone's house and it's all open and but it's you being open to being accepted by another person. And I think that's a real key to loneliness. Loneliness is not about somebody being nice to you and, oh, come on, I love you, we'll go out, let's have a drink. It's not about, it's about you accepting that they are there to help you, and they could help you if you just allow them in. And that is a big problem in loneliness, because sometimes when you're that lonely, you put this together, this wall around you, and you say nobody can enter. Oh, she means this. She doesn't really want to. She's just doing a mitzvah. But if you just let those walls slowly come down, then you start realizing, actually, it's not what I think. She does really want to help me. She really, she's really there for me. And I think that's in a way what the message of Sukkot could be. I'm
I
not a
like that.
rabbi
I
making
like
this up in my head, but yeah.
But I think that also to build on that, when just for those people who feel like, oh, she's just doing it for me, I think that recognizing that, I mean, I know that I benefit from giving, and I think we all benefit from giving. People want to give, and someone has to be on the receiving side of their giving. So in this particular case, you're the receiving side. You could be a giver to somebody else who has to be the receiver. So I think the world, just understanding how the world runs with givers and receivers, and in
Helps.
this case, you're the receiver for her giving, and she wants to give. We actually, in this upward spiral of giving, we feel better, and then we give more, and then everyone's
Comes
giving,
in
and
two
that would be
ways.
the ideal, beautiful world, is that everyone's giving and receiving, and everyone's okay with being the receiver and being the giver. And that sounds like utopia. It sounds like Ula, but uh,
I think utopia really in the Jewish in religious life, it's not utopia. In the religious life, it is what should be.
right.
And the only way it becomes that way is we say, I'm a Jewish person, and my whole tafkid in life is to give, to change. We're here to fix a broken world. That's exactly what Hashem put us on this world for one reason and one reason alone: to fix the broken world. That's all our tafkid is. Do you know that? I mean, my father always tells me this, and he said, you have to work on it. You have to give. That's the only way you could do things. And that's the only way we could bring Mashiach, or we could get to the next stage, is to fix it.
Well,
So,
definitely. So I think part of the loneliness could be giving, but I think that what I'm also trying to stress is the receiving.
yeah.
And you know, and some people have a harder time receiving, whether it's all their life or new a little bit more now, for whatever their reasons are. And I think it's worth reflecting about why we're having such a hard time receiving. And then on the other hand, if someone's having a hard time receiving, that might mean that you should be stretching out in a different way to them, or giving to them in a different way, because the way that you've been giving is triggering something that they don't want to receive it. But sometimes it's those people who are the most resistant that need the most support. because if they're resistant, if someone who says no, I'm good and really means it, you can sense that and they're good, and so you don't have to be giving to them. But someone says no, I don't need that. I know I'm okay. Like
You could feel the
you
difference.
can
You should
feel
be
the
able.
difference, and then this maybe try a different way. Like
It's
if they don't
interesting
want,
with the baggage, with these packages. Someone said to me, "Oh, why am I getting this?" I said, "You're getting it because I actually really wanted to thank you for, being a part of my life or whatever." And then someone else said to me, "But I thought you only give it to lonely people." And I actually really try very hard not to do that. I give it to people because I feel that I don't want anyone to feel that she has a stigmatization. Oh, I'm lonely. I got this bag. That's not what it's about. It's about really reaching out to people and just being not, being good to them or appreciating them or just saying, I have a free copy of the magazine. I want you to read it. And then I want you to spread the word about it. So you have to know, like you say, you have to know how to approach each person. So some people I'll approach and say, I really need somebody to talk about the magazine. So could I give you a free one? And they feel fabulous. Oh,
and you mean it. It's not like it's not
yeah,
the
no, of course
ploy. It's not the ploy of how to get into their life.
yeah,
It's
no,
real.
Shalom. But I'm just trying to say that we're trying to make everyone feel comfortable about it, and I hope it works. I do really hope it works.
But the idea that, firstly, just I think that talking about that loneliness is for a part of the stage for many, many people. Can't say everybody because everybody's, it's too big of a word. But for many, many people, I think normalizing that there is going to be loneliness as we work through the change, and some of the people that were part of our lives are not going to be there so much, whether it's, like we said earlier, because we're not parenting our young kids anymore, or friends move, or parents get older, or they pass, and just our friends pass, whatever it is, and then it's part of this stage of our life, and just recognizing that it's going to happen for most people, probably all of us, and knowing that there's ways to do it, and to proactively reach out and to proactively receive what is being offered. And I think that reaching out to friends and making a potluck dinner, so we're not asking to be a guest and we're not asking to take on such a big responsibility of making the dinner. For some people, that's a thing. And do you want to do a potluck, or do you want to do a potluck on Tuesday? So it's not a big Shabbos. It's just, and it doesn't have to be going out for dinner, which can be an expense for some people, and some people don't like restaurants or don't eat at restaurants, whatever. No, so just potluck or just coming to Sunday breakfast.
Yeah,
Let's
I had a group of girls they called me up one week. Oh, I'm making something for Matzah Shabbos. A bunch of us, everyone's bringing something to the table. Would you like to come? And okay, I went. Actually, I'm not that type of person. I don't socialize in that way. And like you were saying, introvert, extrovert. It's funny. You all will think that I'm not an introvert. When it comes to that type of thing, I am a bit more introverted, and I don't enjoy going to like little parties of girls. That's not me. But I went. I tried it. I saw it wasn't my thing, but I enjoyed myself while I was there, and I met new people, and we did continue the contacts. But I just won't go to that party. It's just not me. Do you understand what I'm saying? So like you were saying before, you find who you are. You see what works for you, and if it works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, next. It's fine.
right. So I think that also, if you meet someone, say at a exercise class, and you don't have to, I mean, you can continue meeting them at the exercise class or not. You can choose not to go. But if you ask them to go out, you can ask them to go out, not to a pottery class, but if you want to go for a walk, because exercise is already something that you see is interesting to them. So build that with the commonality. Don't just
that's what I'm saying with this get together. Yeah, we got together. I wasn't so loving of getting together like that, but I did from it. Actually, we got an article in the magazine from it because one of the women there was an artist, and we were talking, and she appeared in the magazine this time. And it was like really, we get in touch sometimes, we talk to each other, but it wasn't that I go back to that gathering, because that's not me.
That's okay. And I think it's great that they have a gathering around just getting together. But sometimes when you have a gathering around a topic, you attract other people that are more related to that topic, and then you can really find people that are interested in the topic or the concept that's interesting to you. So I think it's great just to get together, But if we were getting together about doing something in the community and all the volunteers are actually really interested in that particular topic, then we have what to talk about even afterwards. Not
Now,
just
what we're trying to do with the magazine eventually, I mean, everything is like I have so many plans going on up here, but what I really want to do is eventually make in every community that we have the magazine in, I would like to set up little groups, and it could be just 5 people. It doesn't have to be a major group. And even like once a month, just get together and we'll give a topic. It will be a community topic so that it's not something that you have to find a topic. We'll give you the topic to speak about, and then you take it to where you want. But what I'm trying to do is show that, like, women, when we get together, we could achieve so much. We really could. We could achieve so much. It's amazing. I can't believe that from this magazine, which is started from nothing, from, like I said, a little leaflet that I was going to give out.
Yeah.
I've gotten so many people involved from all over the world. It's just I mean, Devora, just talking to you. I mean, you're from Miami. Where would I have met you? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We have gotten so many people. So that's what I'd love to make these channels that we can all talk and open up to each other and discuss things that are important to us. And that's what my next goal will be, is to make these little groups of people, and that we all belong to one major group, the Uplift community, but we're spreading it out.
I think that's wonderful. I think because loneliness, and some people they're desperate to get out of their loneliness, but just need the ideas. So I think that providing situations and providing the ideas that we kind of covered today can help people at least think about which of the angles to come from and to reach out to other people. It's wonderful when the community creates the situation for you, like there's classes or whatnot, but sometimes we have to do it ourselves. And I think that that's part of the uplift or empowering.
You know what? You could give somebody a whole life in front of them, but if they don't open the door to enter that life, then it will just stay there in the beautiful, behind closed doors. There'll be a beautiful life, a beautiful garden, a beautiful life, but you have to take that step. So like you said, we could give you everything. We'll all try. I'm sure everybody's trying. There's so many different things going on today in all over the world. There really are. There's so many different projects, and people are trying so hard to help each other. That's what that's what we try to do. But you have to take the step. And if to all the people who are listening, and if you're feeling that loneliness, I'm sure you could reach out to Devora, or I'll give you my email. You could reach out to me. I'm sure we could come up with something that could get you to the place that you at least take the first step out of it. And I think that's where you have to get. The first step out of it is the hardest, but once you do that step, you could continue.
Right. I think that's such an important piece, is that first step, get out of the comfort, even though you may have been out of your comfort zone, or you had a wide comfort zone before. It's different now. And so you have to take another step out in a different direction. And it may be 2 or 3 steps out in different directions until it actually clicks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're a new you, and the people around you are new them. And especially if
our relationship with our husbands, with our peers, with everyone, everything has changed because we have changed, and it's all positive if you let it be positive. You know what I mean? It could all be negative, or you could say to yourself, "Oh gosh, I'm more aware of this," or I don't know, I can't come up with something off my head, but you just have to. If you start accepting who you've become and who you can be, then I think that you have a real good chance of surviving the menopause.
Oh, we definitely can survive it. I think that it's being proactive, especially around friendships and connections. It's about being proactive and not waiting. Even if you move to a new community and waiting for people to say hello to you, or you're just putting yourself out there. It's not easy, but it's the faster way. It's definitely the faster way.
Community at this stage in your life, and it must have been quite hard for you.
It is, and so it's definitely harder. I still have my friends from back home, but it's definitely reaching out to people. a lot more proactive than just waiting for someone to call. It's harder to in a community that was before I was there. I'm the one who
Building
has
their friendship circles.
right, and so it's a real thing.
Yeah,
But I
definitely.
think that the proactiveness and finding new people and finding new interesting things and meeting your new city, if that's what you are, with people or to meet people, I think is exciting and hard. But hard doesn't mean bad. Hard just means hard.
How many things in our life haven't been easy? If you go back, having your first child is or not having a child, whatever it is, we've gone through so many things in our
By
lives.
the time we get to 50, yeah, we've had
We're
hard.
definitely
We got
breakthroughs.
through hard.
Yeah.
And we could actually look back, and I think that's something interesting is to look back and say, when have I got through hard before? I can get through hard now. And there's especially about friendships, I think, or connections. I don't even want to put the expectation of new friendships, but
Yeah, I
new
think that's important
connections.
not to say that word because it makes it that it has to be more than it really needs to be. It doesn't need to be so this close, cloying. I'm going to call you. How are you feeling today? Oh, I feel guilty that I didn't call her yesterday. Yesterday I did call her. It becomes a whole, that in itself becomes a sickness. You know what I'm
But I
saying?
think that when we try so hard, it actually adds pressure into the
Yeah. To the
into
whole
the
thing. Yeah.
relationship. So I
Yeah.
think I generally like to use the word connections and
Yeah, I
then
think you're
see
right.
some of
Great.
them may turn into friendships, but don't have that expectation like I'm going out to find my new friend today.
No,
It
no.
doesn't. Friendships don't
I'm
develop.
going out to make a conversation today, or I am going out to get out of the funk that I'm in today. This bad feeling, this horrible, it's so much more than loneliness. Loneliness is just, it's just a tip of the iceberg. It's a deep feeling of loneliness, and you need to take that step away from it.
And first of all, just get out of the house and open to small conversations, even small conversations, or complimenting someone, a perfect stranger on her dress, makes her
Well, I
feel
think
good, and her
once you
smile
do
makes
that,
you feel good.
yeah,
It
because
doesn't
if
have to be
you make a
even.
compliment,
I mean, that's the beginning of getting out of loneliness. Is just talking to anybody about small things. What a
anything,
wonderful day, or just
yeah.
or
And you'd be surprised how much it makes a difference. It really does. It's amazing how much it can make a difference.
and that can snowball into something bigger for you for that day or for even. So I think that loneliness is a real topic. I think that we really should have more conversations about loneliness in general. But let's just, for me, I want to stick to it in midlife. But
Yeah.
I
I
think it's
think also for me, I mean, okay, I talk to people from 35 years and over, but and I know younger kids are reading it. I know teenagers also are reading the magazine. So it's interesting. Even though I'm so geared to this, it's become more of an, all people are reading it. But I find that for me, especially this age is it could be such a fantastic age. Or if chas v'shalom, you're not aware that these changes are all normal and you could cope with it, and there's people to talk to, and there's people to, you know, to to help you with this, then chas v'shalom, it could become a very bad age. But if you do all that and you use all the facilities around you and you open to this wonderful thing that's happening to you, then I think you have a really good chance of getting to the next stage.
it's
And
gonna be. It could really be wonderful,
good.
but we have to put some of that effort. It's not only going to come from the outside. And most of it
Yeah,
comes from the inside.
yeah, yeah,
And this now we're talking specifically about connections and combating loneliness. But I think it's in all aspects of midlife. But I don't even want to go into that, but for another conversation. But this has been so interesting about loneliness and dealing with what's happening and where to find those connections, how to make those connections. It's such an important topic, and I think that we should really continue the conversation
yeah.
virtually somehow.
Definitely.
Another time where loneliness really pops up for some people is around Yom Tov and holidays. And now we're going into Sukkos. I mean, right now we're right in between all the holidays, but for some people, Sukkos is a big family affair, and for some people, it can feel very lonely. And I think that's
100% more than we even realize it. I mean, we have I'll tell you what it is. I mean, sometimes there's a person who's divorced for many years and he's living on his own, or a woman who's almana, and she's living on their own, and they manage very well. They have beautiful lives. They're fabulous. They take care of themselves. But it comes to a Yom Tov, and they're going to be on their own. And then, you're waiting for the invitations, or you're waiting, oh, am I going to be invited? Who should I call to invite myself to? What presents do I give them? Oh, could you imagine 8 nights? You got to start finding presents for every day of Sukkos. It's not funny. You have 3 meals a day. It's not so simple. I think a very good way of doing it is start your own group. You can have Sukkos on your own. If you invite, there are so many different people that you could invite. You could put out something on social, not maybe social media, but on your WhatsApp status, or I'm making a Sukkos this year on my own. Do you have 3 friends who would like to join? And I'm telling you, you will find it, because there are so many people in the same boat as you. That's just one idea. Another idea is, I know that sometimes people feel really uncomfortable calling other people for invitations. And that's normal. You would be, you feel like you're intruding on somebody. But I find that people are usually quite honest when it comes to a Yom Tov, when they can't have a person in. So if you call, let's say somebody's calling me and they ask me for an invitation, I could say honestly, look, I can't do it, but I have a friend who might be able to do it. I'm going to call her up and speak to her. I think it's all about being open and accepting, like you said before. It's about receiving and giving. And sometimes you'll be the receiver, and sometimes you won't. You'll be the giver, and it's okay.
And sometimes even asking.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. There's just nothing wrong with it. I think we forget how important we are to each other. We are, I mean, anyone who's not Jewish will tell you, the one thing that they're really jealous of with our community is that we're all together. And okay, from outside, it definitely looks like it. I don't know about inside. When it comes to the crunch, we're together. Anything happens to one Jewish person, we're all up in arms, right? We all try to do our best for them. So if we accept that that's who we are, then we could reach out and say, could I please be invited? She's your sister. She's your best friend. She might, don't ever feel that there's someone who doesn't want you in their lives. I can't express enough how much I want to tell you, anybody who's listening to this, that you are loved, and you just have to accept that sometimes you need help, and there's nothing wrong with it. Just ask for it. There's so many people who are there for you. You just have to ask for it. And like you said, on Yom Tovim, people who have families, and people who have large gatherings and large sukkahs, just remember that there's a person sitting there on their own. And just think to yourself, he has to invite himself every single time. Can't you just call him up this time and say, could you come over? I'm sure the person would really appreciate it.
I think it's like taking time just to think, as you're preparing the meal, proactively think, who else can I be inviting? Because I know many people would say, oh, of course, come. I'm so glad you asked. But some people don't want to be the asking. Or we just say, call whenever you want, and some people don't want to. So if you could be a little bit more proactive for those people, and like really just call them. But I think it's one thing that's very important is not to see them as the person who needs the help. I think it's just like, oh, it would be so interesting to have them. I enjoy their company, or enjoy, like, reframe it for yourself. It comes out different to everybody. And yes, some people are on the lonelier side right now, but I think that once we become more involved in the community, you may be living alone, but you don't have to be lonely.
That's it. That's what we said in the very beginning when we talked about this. We were saying, is how do you feel? It's not about being alone in a room. It's about the feeling of a deep loneliness. And that is not, It's like you can have thousands of people around you and everyone is smiling and everyone's, hi, how are you? And you still could feel really lonely. So that's the people that we should be reaching for, and we should really be making an effort to include them in our lives. And everybody has something to give. You just have to find it. You really do have to look for it. You'll find what they have to give, and then they'll become part of your life.
And on the flip, if you're that person, make it easier for someone to find it if you can, if you're in the right headspace for it, because everyone has so much. Contribute to the conversations, to the different conversations, to talk about your experience, your past, your future, your dreams. You'll find that connection. If you only talk about one thing, people won't be able to find what to connect to you with unless it's that one thing. So expand, maybe even expand your life, if I may say, so that you have more interesting life to be talking about. Like
It's
it's
interesting,
both.
Devora, I'm just going to interrupt you because when you say that, a lot of times when a person is going through this type of loneliness, they're very staccato with their responses. So you'll go over to them. How are you? I'm fine.
Okay.
Oh, I like your dress. Thank you. What are you going to do? How are you going to get them to open up? Because you see that they're there. That's a perfect sign of where they're up to. It's really hard to do that. And I think you need to really push it. You have to say, how are you? Instead of saying, how are you? Which is such an open question. Of course, she's going to answer fine.
Right.
Well, what do you want her to say? You have to be more specific. Say, oh, I see that I haven't seen you for a few weeks. Where have you been? So she has now 3 words to answer you. I have been in. She has to answer you in some way. You have to open up the conversation that it shouldn't be so staccato. It's a problem that's how you have to draw people out of themselves. You have to really it's like when you're giving these interviews. I'm sure you sometimes have I'm sure you never did, but you sometimes have a guest that you really do have to pull the strings to get the conversation moving, and you're thinking, oh no, it's supposed to be for 30 minutes. I can't even get 10 out of this one. But that's what it is. You draw them out. You find questions and you slowly get them to open up.
And that's a whole other conversation about how to have conversation. I think that's a wonderful conversation to have about how to talk to people, how to help people, or just even for ourselves, how to, when we're meeting people at this age, or really at any age. But I think we're going to leave that for another time. I think this is such an important conversation about connections, friendships, loneliness, getting yourself out there, inviting others into your life, and just really sharing and helping each other through this stage, and especially for those where loneliness is a bigger part of this stage. So thank you so much, Chani. Where can people get your magazine? Where can people find you on LinkedIn and social media?
Okay, so on LinkedIn, I'm under my name, Chanie Schreibhand. I'll give you that to spell because it's one of those names. And on Instagram, on Uplift Jewish Woman's Magazine. And I'm on a few other places, I don't know, but you could definitely get our magazine anywhere. It's usually in New York. It's in LA. This time we had a slight issue with LA, but
I saw it in Jerusalem.
Yeah, it was in Jerusalem. Yeah, we have it there. You can really get it anywhere, but if you can't find it, just get in touch with on our website, www.theuplift magazine. It's THEUPLIFT magazine.com. And there's, we could give you a subscription or we'll tell you the best place to get it. And it's been fantastic being with you again, Devora. I love talking to you.
Yes.
And
Online, offline. Yes, it's just always.
Yeah, it's really been fabulous. And I hope everyone does something for themselves to get to the next stage in our life that's positive, really positive.
Amen.
Okay.
Thank you, Chani.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for joining me in another fascinating conversation about midlife. If you'd like to reach me, Devora Krasnianski, to talk about your midlife or anything else, you can reach me at jewishmidlife@gmail.com. You can also find us on our website, jewishmidlife.com, and follow us on Jewish Midlife on Instagram or Facebook, and join our conversations in our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Jewish Women Talk About Midlife. And share what we're doing with your friends and others in the midlife phase.